Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the 1996 comedy Kingpin. Now, this is a film that I have a soft spot for because I grew up with it. I grew up watching this film on TV. It seemed like it was on TV all the time. And I'm not the only one because the Farrelly brothers even mentioned that in an interview on this Blu-ray. So even they were like, yeah, it was on TV all the time. So I'm not alone when it comes to that. I would have to say this is my favorite Farrelly Brothers film, probably because of my direct association with it. It's a film that I have fond memories of. It's my first introduction to their work. I still really enjoy films that they did, like Dumb and Dumber, and I had fun with Me, Myself, and Irene. But I would have to say that if I had to pick, Kingpin would be my favorite film of theirs. Now, this is a film that was their follow-up to Dumb and Dumber. It came out in 1996 on July 26th, I believe, or 27th. Yeah, it was July 26th. It was made for a budget of about $27 million, and it only made $25 million. It only made $25 million in the box office, so it was a gutter ball in the box office. It struck out. And that really disappointed the Farrelly brothers, understandably so. But it was a huge hit on home video and with rentals. In fact, it actually set new records for home video and rental sales. So it was a ginormous hit in that regard. And it has gained a really big cult following over the years. It's been considered by a lot of people to be one of the most underrated comedies in the 90s, and I agree with that. Even critics back in the day, like when it came out, actually thought it was pretty good. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars, which is a pretty high rating from Roger Ebert. The film's been on top 100 or top 50 comedy lists that people have made. And over the years, it's definitely a film that has received a lot of acclaim and a lot of attention, and deservedly so. Now, this is a Blu-ray from Paramount, which is interesting because Paramount did not release the film. It was a film released through MGM. The DVD, the VHS, the Laserdisc, all of those releases were by MGM. Now, apparently it seems like Paramount at one point bought the catalog of Ricer Entertainment films, and that's why we have a Blu-ray from Paramount. Now, there's different, you can get one with a slipcase, and then there's like this one that doesn't have it. This is a gift from Jonathan. I want to say once again, thanks to him. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for sending this to me. I've been wanting this Blu-ray for a while now, and I really appreciate the gift because now I was able to check it out. The film looks and sounds fantastic. Unlike the unrated cut of Dumb and Dumber, this actually does have the theatrical version on the Blu-ray as well as the unrated cut, which is good because I like the theatrical cut more than the unrated cut, because the unrated cut, to me, it just adds shit that didn't need to be there. It just adds some more crude sex jokes. That's really what it does. Nothing on the unrated cut of Kingpin is really anything that really was necessary to the plot, and the same thing applies to Dumb and Dumber. In fact, the Dumb and Dumber unrated cut makes it worse, but this doesn't make it worse. It's not really necessary. They should have just included that as deleted scenes, if you ask me. Just separate deleted scenes. As a commentary with the Farrelly brothers, and a new featurette exclusive to this release, where it's an interview with the Farrelly brothers while they're bowling, and they're talking about the movie, and so on. It's fairly short, but it's got some nice bits of information. Now, I wish it had a little bit more features, like Bill Murray's notorious about not doing any interviews, but there are some old interviews with Bill Murray from the time the film was being released for some promotional material that are included in the featurette. I don't know why, and the interviews or the featurette that was made around the time of the film's release, I don't know why that was not included on the Blu-ray, but regardless, it's still a solid Blu-ray for a classic comedy. I can't really say the cover art is very good, though. This is some fugly ass looking cover art. I don't know what they were thinking with this. This is a Photoshop nightmare. Uh, Vanessa Angel looks like she's a fucking space alien. This is some really shitty cover art. Like that's the worst thing about this Blu-ray for sure. Out of everything, that is the worst thing about it. It doesn't even look like they even tried. They should have just used the original poster art, or anything would have been better than this fucking monstrosity, because this is ugly. This is fucking ugly. Now, the film is directed by the Farrelly brothers. It was their second film they directed after Dumb and Dumber. Surprisingly, they did not have a lot of studios knocking down their door to direct other comedies after Dumb and Dumber, because these studios just assumed, well, you know, they did Dumb and Dumber, and it was a big hit, but that's a Jim Carrey film. They didn't associate its success with the Farrelly brothers. So it took them a while to actually get another job. They found this script, Kingpin script, by Barry Finero and Mort Nathan, and they really liked it, so they decided, well, we want to do this, and they got the job, and the rest is history. Now, the script by Barry Finero and Mort Nathan, for me, is absolutely one of the film's best moments. I mean, not necessarily moments, but one of its best elements is its screenplay. Now, there's a lot of stuff that was improvised, especially pretty much every scene with Bill Murray was improvised by Bill. So a lot of the brilliance of the Bill Murray scenes where he's playing Big Earn are credited to Bill Murray. But the script has this wonderful mix of seedy, dark humor with your traditional sports drama. And it's a really nice, interesting dynamic. And it also plays out in a lot of ways, to me, as a really great satire of the sports drama. Because you have all these normal cliches with the sports drama, where somebody goes up against all odds and manages to beat every one of them. Well, in Kingpin, things end up working out for the best in the end of the film, some way or another, but it doesn't end up happening the way you expect. And that's a big reason why the film holds up so well, and why the film stands out so much from the rest of its peers, is because it's a film where you have the final showdown between our hero, Roy Munson, and the villain, Ernie McCracken, and Roy doesn't win. So it's one of those things where it does not give you what you expect, but it still ends up being satisfying, because it's such a well-written script. And that's a big reason why the film works so well. The direction by the Farrelly brothers is also really solid. The sequences when they're shooting in the Amish community, those are well done. The shots are set up really well. The cinematography is actually quite beautiful in those scenes. It really does a great job of getting the most out of the setting. And the cinematography by Mark Irwin, who's done a lot of films. He's done cinematography for a lot of movies, and a lot of different genres of film as well. And I also feel this cast is just phenomenal. I mean, you got Woody Harrelson, who plays Roy Munson, in one of my favorite roles of his career. I love this character. He's a total loser. He's a schlub. He's an alcoholic. He's missing a hand. He's got a prosthetic hand. You know, he's living in a shithole of an apartment that he only has because he's banging his landlord in bouts of dirty, gross sex that makes him vomit in a toilet afterwards. And the landlord is all talking about pump and dump and, you know, and all this other stuff. And she actually becomes a motivation for him later in the film in a rather hilarious fashion. Anytime when Roy is thinking about going back on what he's doing, like he's thinking about going back and dropping Ishmael off back at the Amish community, or not going through facing Ernie McCracken, or going into the $1 million winner-take-all bowling tournament, he always sees the the image of Lin Shaye just going, you know, it's one of those things you're just like, ugh. So you can see why it's just this perfect motivation for Roy. It's like, and it's great because in this type of film, you normally don't see the motivation being something as crass as this. You know, the motivation isn't, oh man, I better do this. I better, you know, go into this tournament and win, because if I don't, I'm going to have to go back to this apartment. I'm going to have to do cunnilingus on this fucking old hag of a landlord, and I can't fucking stand that. That shit is terrifying. And it is. And it's comes across as like a horror film. And it is. It's horrifying. Just the thought of having sex with Lin Shaye's character in this film is horrifying. For anyone who watches this film, it is absolutely horrifying. So, yeah, so Woody Harrelson just plays it off perfectly. And I love this character is likable because he's not infallible. He's kind of a douchebag, but he ends up changing by the end of the film. He actually does change for the better, and he has this blue collar aspect to him, which is really enjoyable. It makes him stand out from a lot of other characters like this. You feel bad for him. You're sympathetic for him. And you want things to work out in the end for this character. And Woody Harrelson, like I said, just does a great job playing this role. He was initially kind of leery of it, but he decided he wanted to do the film because he was good friends with the Farrelly brothers, and he turned down a role in Dumb and Dumber. So he decided, well, I don't want to turn down another role with these guys, so I'm going to do it. And he also liked the idea that he was going to play this character who is not going to be portrayed in the most flattering light. And he ended up saying it was one of the most fun roles, was one of the best roles he's had in his career, and some of the most fun he's had on a film. So it was it worked out for the best. Now, Randy Quaid plays Ishmael. Randy Quaid is okay. He's fine. I mean, the character is one of those characters where I'm like, the character's all right. There are a few moments where I do crack up. I mean, a lot of my favorite moments, though, involve Roy and Bill Murray. But Randy Quaid has some moments that made me chuckle, like, run, there's a shit cloud coming. Run for your lives. His sort of dopey attitude did crack me up, did make me smile. He originally was not the first choice. They wanted Chris Farrelly, but Chris had some prior commitments, so he wasn't able to do it. I would have loved to have seen that because it would have been really cool and a lot of fun to see Woody Harrelson work off of Chris Farrelly and to see Chris Farrelly in a Farrelly Brothers film. But it worked out for the best, though, that Randy Quaid was cast, because it's because of Randy Quaid that Bill Murray is in the film. And Bill Murray is one of the best things about the movie. I wouldn't like the film as much as I do without Bill Murray. And so I think it's a fair trade, because and the reason why Randy Quaid is the reason why Bill Murray was in the film is because Randy Quaid was really good friends with Bill Murray. And the Farrelly brothers were trying to find somebody to play Ernie. They first thought maybe Jim Carrey, but that didn't work out, so they wanted Bill Murray, which is a great idea. Perfect casting. But they didn't know how to get a hold of him. Or they didn't think they were going to get a hold of him in time for him to do the movie. Bill Murray is a guy who doesn't have an agent. He's a star. He's an actor who does not have an agent. You just have to try to do the best you can to get a hold of him and cross your fingers and hope he accepts the role. I mean, that's how it is with Bill. So when they cast Randy Quaid, he was really good friends with Bill, and all he did is just call up Bill Murray on the phone, ask Bill if he wanted to do Kingpin, and Bill said sure. And then they waited for Bill to show up on the day he was supposed to show up on set. And Bill thankfully showed up, and he was in character and everything. He took one look at the script, tossed it aside, because he's such a talented individual that he just needs to get an inkling or an idea of what his sequences are going to be, and then he just rolls with it. And then he just comes up with the most brilliant, hilarious bits of improv. I mean, that's what he does. and he just does it. He can just do it just like that. And probably a lot of that is because, you know, he was on SNL for a long time, so he learned how to be quick on his feet and quick-witted. And yeah, I mean, so got to give Randy Quaid a lot of kudos and a lot of thanks, because without him, we don't have Bill Murray as Big Earn in this movie. And this is one of my favorite performances by Bill Murray, is in Kingpin. I love this character. He's such a fucking asshole. He's this typical movie douchebag, but he's the type of guy you love to hate. You love to hate this character. And in a lot of ways, he really does put this film on a whole nother level. And I love the whole way that Bill is able to paint himself as not only this total lech, this total just douchebag, this awful asshole, this prick of a character, but he also is able to show himself in an unflattering light too, because Big Earn's this overweight guy. He's got a comb over, and near the end of the film, you know, the comb over is falling apart. You know, you got that great image right there. You know, that was earlier on, but he's just got this comb over, is all over the place. He's showing this giant bald spot at the end of the movie. So I mean, that takes a certain, you know, person who's comfortable enough in who they are that they can just, you know, go with it. You know, all right, I'm not gonna look like the most flattering guy, but, you know, hey, you know, I'm all for it. I'm gonna go for it. And yeah, I love this character. He's one of my favorite movie villains. You know, Ernie McCracken. Vanessa Angel's also in the cast as Claudia. She's drop dead gorgeous. I remember her from her role in the Weird Science TV series. She's really good here as well. It's kind of sad that she didn't really go on to do that much after this. I thought she did great in this. I thought, you know, she could have went from this to other roles, and it just seems like that really didn't work out that well for her. Chris Elliott has a bit role as this gambler character, which is a parody of Indecent Proposal, a film that Woody Harrelson was in. Lynn Shay has a great cameo as Miss Dumars, the landlady. She was so great with this role that she showed up on set. She showed up to audition as the character, and the Farrelly brothers thought she was a homeless woman. They were like, get this homeless woman out of here. And then they found out later it was her. And then they're like, oh, she's perfect. We're totally casting her in this film. So yeah, that shows you how great her role was in the film. And yeah, the movie came out, didn't do that well, which was surprising. It's a film that there's a lot to like about it. I think the direction is really good. I love the screenplay. Bill Murray's improv scenes are hilarious. I mean, Bill makes scenes that wouldn't really be laugh out loud hilarious, and laugh out loud funny because he's involved. There's a scene where he's at a diner and he just randomly goes to these women across at a booth across from him. He goes, "Hi." "No, not you." "Hi." And it was just something that was totally improvised. It was actually shot after the scene had already been shot, but the cameras were still rolling, and then it was put in the film. He came up with the line, "You're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels." That line, that cracks me up. I mean, it's a great line, and it's just the way he says it's just funny. And apparently in the climax, when Ernie has to bowl 3 strikes in a row to beat Roy, they were preparing to have to shoot multiple takes. They shot it at this big bowling alley, and there was like thousands of extras, and they were planning on shooting multiple takes, but Bill did it all in one take. He bowled 3 strikes in a row, and the reaction that you see from the audience is genuine. It's totally genuine. That's amazing. And speaking of bowling, apparently Woody Harrelson, he wasn't really a great bowler, so they had to work around that with editing and multiple takes and things like that. Randy Quaid was pretty good. Bill Murray, of course. I mean, he rolled 3 strikes in a row. And but yeah, it was one of those things where it's kind of funny because Woody was really a great basketball player in White Men Can't Jump, but for some reason he wasn't a very good bowler, which is crazy because basketball is a much more athletic sport than bowling, but he just wasn't able to really pick that up as well. But he did it. He did a good enough job that it made it appear as if he was a really good bowler. Now, I also think the film has, excuse me, I really like the music. I really like the music in the film. Freedy Johnston did the score, but a lot of it's songs and things like that. There's some great inspired song choices. My favorite probably, though, is Showdown by ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, which is used in the showdown between Roy Munson and Ernie McCracken at the end of the film. So yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Adds a lot of nice mood and atmosphere to it. Helps the songs that you hear in the 70s prologue really does help recreate the look and the feel of that particular era. Cinematography by Mark Irwin I thought was actually quite gorgeous and really impressive for a film like this. It's just a comedy, but Mark Irwin decided to get the most out of the setting that he could. I mean, especially the shots in the Amish countryside and things like that. Even the Farrelly brothers felt that he did a great job with the cinematography. The editing by Christopher Greenberry I also think is really tight, taut, really excellent. The pacing of the film I think is definitely a highlight. It's for a film that's almost 2 hours, it's 113 minutes. It goes by at a pretty quick pace. There really isn't very many dull moments. I never really got that bored by the film. And pretty much a lot of things about the film I really like. I mean, it's a film where I can't really find that many cons. I mean, not that many things that I didn't like about it. I mean, they're just little minor issues. I mean, Randy Quaid's character was just there for me. The Amish stuff was there. I could take it or leave it. You know, I'm not really that big on Amish humor unless it's Weird Al's Amish Paradise. But, you know, it was just, I mean, some of it just really wasn't that funny to me. I liked the film a lot more once they got out of the Amish stuff. But I also didn't really buy the romance between Vanessa Angel and Woody Harrelson. I thought it was a bit kind of forced. I bought their friendship, but I didn't buy when they became romantically involved. When she was like, "Oh, I better do everything I can to salvage the relationship or go back to him," type thing by the end of the movie. I didn't really buy that. I think they could have done a little bit better of a job establishing that they were going to become sort of an item, because before that it was just kind of like they're antagonistic towards each other. She kicked him in the balls and kicked his ass, and he punched her in the tits. But like, it was just one of those things where it was like it didn't really go as far as it ended up going. So it was like one of those things that's like I would have liked an in-between point in between the relationship where you could really tell that they were really falling for each other. I mean, there were, I think they might have kissed beforehand, but it just wasn't something that I really kind of bought. I think as solid as the script is, I think that part of it could have been done a bit better. But I mean, other than that, I don't really have any other problems with the film. I mean, the humor, I mean, there's some absolutely hilarious laugh out loud scenes in the film. You know, everything with Bill Murray cracks me up. The commercial he did is absolutely just 100% grade A prime comedic genius. I love that. The whole premise of it is great, and Bill just takes it to a whole nother level with his improving. just being this total sleazebag, slapping the mom on the ass, going the whole scene where he's getting ready, he's playing football with this kid, and he's like, hut, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then he's all like, go deeper, Jonathan. And he's just lifting up the woman's skirt and just snapping her fucking thong, and just like, some of those things are just like, he's not even hiding how much of a sleazebag he is, and I love it. Woody Harrelson, there's just so many great moments and just great quotes with Woody. I love the whole sort of thing where Munson has become this kind of term that people use when you get screwed. When you get screwed over, when you're fucked, you're Munsoned. And I love the reaction that that Munson has every time this kind of stuff is mentioned. He's just like, ugh. He's just like, what does Munson mean? There's actually a nice line that I thought was actually kind of poignant, where he says, the world can really kick your ass. I only have a vague recollection of when it wasn't kicking mine. That actually is a pretty good line of dialogue that really does represent life fairly well. I mean, he's gotten a raw deal. I mean, he's been in a shithole for a long time. He's going around, and in his neighbors are these homeless guys around his apartment, and they're asking him questions and stuff. Where he's all like, the one neighbor is like, Roy, can you get sick drinking piss? I think you can. Even if it's your own? I mean, that's how pathetic things are. You got these neighbors asking him if you can get sick if you drink your own piss. Or this is one of those things where you're just like, man, like, his life is totally in the shitter. But Woody really makes this character one to remember and one to enjoy, watching and again. It's a character that has a lot of flaws, but, it's a character that you ultimately end up really kind of falling in love with by the end of the film. So, it's got some nice lines of dialogue, some great bowling scenes. I normally, bowling movies, there aren't that many, and for a reason, because it's not really the most exciting sport to watch. It's a lot of fun to play, but it's not really the most exciting sport to watch. But the film does a great job making it feel like the stakes are high, and makes these bowling scenes exciting and fun. And I really don't know what else to say about Kingpin. I mean, everything that could possibly be above average or solid from a filmmaking perspective is in Kingpin's favor. And there's just a few little tiny nitpicky things that I had issues with. Overall, though, I think it's a great comedy. I think it's a classic, and I don't know what else to say about the film, except if I was going to rate it out of 5 stars, and I give the movie 4.5 out of 5. I'm only knocking off a half star for those problems that I had with it. Another half star for it isn't quite to the point where it's a 5-star comedy for me, because it isn't as funny as it could be. There are some moments where the jokes and the gags kind of fall flat, but there's not a lot of them, but there's enough that make it so it's not a 5-star comedy for me. But it's close. It's really close. And overall, it's a riot. It's a really entertaining movie. And if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. Check it out sometime. It's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. And if you haven't seen it in a while, and it's definitely worth a watch then too. It's definitely worth another watch. And also, if it's a film that you were not really the biggest fan of, I'd recommend giving it another shot. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Kingpin, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.